Hello friends, Mali Pompadit here with the SOAR Community Network and SOAR Community Nebula. We are interviewing 1,000 community champions of change, and we have today someone that was recommended to us, which means she's extraordinary. We have Elizabeth Bartasius with us. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being a part of our global initiative.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me.
You're absolutely welcome. So tell us where you are in the world.
Well, I live in the Virgin Islands on St. Croix, and it's warm and fabulous. And I can't say enough about it, so come visit.
So jealous. One thing that we love to start with is having you share with our viewers who you are and the type of work you're doing in the world.
Okay, great. I'm a writer and an editor, and many times a ghostwriter. And I really have over the years cultivated that profound love of writing, or it was inherently actually always there. But what I've recognized as I've begun to reclaim my own voice is that so many others haven't yet claimed their voices. And so I really work to promote and help others share their stories and reclaim the voice that somehow they've lost or maybe just didn't even think was relevant.
When did that journey begin for you? I'm just curious, that you landed with this particular field and why it was important for you to stick with it and do this work.
Well, I think, if you've ever listened to a lot of interviews with writers, they'll tell you writing is a tough business, but you can't not do it. And so I've been writing forever because I couldn't not write. And this journey, we can go back to high school if we really want to. But I would say in the last decade or so, it's become very clear to me that there's something here, that writing is more not just a way to tell a story, but that story actually influences people and changes people and creates movements and forwards movements and gives others purpose, and if nothing else, when I work with and ghostwrite for a lot of entrepreneurs or social thinkers, they have a transformation themselves in that process of sharing their story. And then that story becomes available to others to then have their own story. And it just goes and goes and goes.
Big ripple. Fantastic. That's so fantastic. Well, I'd love for you to share also an experience or perhaps a story in your life where there was a conscious leader or someone who showed some empathy, some love, some compassion towards you that helped to shift the way in which you operate in life or your way of thinking. Can you share some examples?
Yeah. Gosh, it's so interesting. That over the course of a life, there are so many people who come in and out and touch us, for a moment sometimes, and it makes such a profound difference. But I would say the biggest shift that I've had personally has actually been inside of a women's circle that is full of 9 other sassy, powerful leaders and change makers, of which Kate Maloney of the We Rise Up movement is one of. And I think that was, this circle that's been together for 10 years and, has become soul sisters. I think the most profound thing about the intention with which we structured that circle is that I got to show up in a very safe space and learn to express myself in a time when I did not feel my voice was worth being heard, in a time when I felt scared to say what I thought or felt, and really in a time when I felt like a bit of an imposter, like why would they even want me in this circle? So that to me, a place where you've got powerful, in this case women, sitting around you, supporting you, looking for your highest self, listening to you from a place of possibility, is just extraordinary.
I think we've all been there, trying to figure out what is ours to say, what does our voice even sound like, and to have that sacred circle is so essential for us to feel safe to explore through that process of transformation or exploration of, well, who am I really? What is mine to do? So I love that you have that circle. I think we all need that circle, create our own circle.
I don't know what people do without it, you know? And I think that's one of the reasons why as a storyteller, as a ghostwriter, as someone who listens to others telling their story and even working to translate their story so that they can share listening is so important to that process. You know, I mean, oftentimes we just need someone to listen.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great. Great. All right. So when you think of a community builder, someone championing change in their world, in their community, what comes to mind for you? What characteristics? What are they like? What are they doing?
You know, I've got a few people on the top of my head, and they're they're all powerhouses in their own way. They don't all have the same personalities. They, you know, some are sort of gentle and kind, and some are, you know, more abrupt and even abrasive at times. And some are, you know, just full of jolly. Some are very serious. I think the thread that ties change makers together when I look at it is they show up. They show up when it's hard. They show up when they don't want to, you know, and maybe they take a break for a day, you know, or they take a nap or they go to the movie because they can't deal with it anymore. But then they show up the next day and they show up and they show up and they keep showing up and they keep showing up.
Mm.
And I think when, you know, when we talk about our unique gifts, I think it becomes, I think they're authentically tapped into their unique point of service, their unique gift. Because I think when one is connected to your unique gift, it's you just keep showing up because that's just what you do. There's no other choice about it. You just keep showing up about it. So I think that's it. I think authentically connected to, you know, their unique gift, and that they just keep showing up consistently no matter what.
Well, I think it's apparent that you're connected to your unique gifts and you're doing this thing that you love and you're helping others to also uncover that voice and find a unique way to express it in their way. Um, so as we talk about your gifts and your talents, how are you utilizing that to give back, to support your community, to help elevate others?
Hmm. Hmm. I think it goes back to that listening. I am a firm believer ever since I saw Elizabeth Gilbert talk, and she talked about following the goosebumps. You know, when she's after a story idea, she interacts with somebody or gets an idea and gets goosebumps, and then she'll go follow that thread and see where it leads her. And ever since then I operate much in the same way. I'm just listening. I'm listening for what's wanting me. I'm listening for when my body responds and says, yes, this is where you can be of service now. You know, I've always used my writing to do an array of things, you know, such as like helping artists find the ability to get grants and or scholarships and create their masterworks, or doctors who want to help people sleep better, or help resource centers get grants money for victims of domestic violence or veterans to find transitional housing. Um, and I think that, you know, I think if there's a common thread there, it's people. You know, like I really am for people, and everybody needs to have their story told, whether it's you know, in a way that they can actually get grant money to help them transition, or whether it's a change maker who says, I've got a story that I want to share. I mean, I can't tell you how many, especially women change makers I have talked to, who of course find out I'm a ghostwriter and then they want to share their whole story with me, which I love doing. And then at the very end, they always say, is my story good enough?
Mm.
And it never fails. And they do it. I mean, the most badass women I know have asked me that question. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you should have just heard the story you told me. It's amazing.
Wow.
So, you know, I think that that kind of listening to somebody and then supporting them in a way to tell the story so that they can go out and make the impact they want to make, whether it's, somebody sharing their, story through a book, or somebody writing a grant to help others, or whatever that the case may be.
So, what are some of the biggest causes or issues that really matter to your heart that you're a big advocate for, an ambassador for, and it doesn't even have to be formal or official, it just really matters to you?
My heart beats when I think of children. Um, I think I I've always personally worked to either go into schools and help kids tell their stories and encourage them to write their stories, or even I used to play tennis in college and competitively when I was young. So back when I lived in, Hurricane Katrina ravaged on the Gulf Coast, I was helping putting together tennis programs for the kids. So, I think kids are one for sure. Domestic violence, another one. Mental health issues, another one. Um, child slavery. Oh, I mean, there's quite a few that just really touch my heart and make me cry every day, and then we get back up and we write the next story.
Yeah. Elizabeth, can you share with us perhaps a philosophy or a motto or a quote that really stands out in your mind that helps you move forward when you are feeling low or sad or down, that you can also help perhaps us take notes on so we can use that to empower us as well?
I know, it's whew, I tell you, sometimes we need it. Yeah, one thing I would say is dialogue. The first thing I do is I call my girlfriends, and I couldn't do it without them, especially when we're feeling low, or when we're in our head, or we're not sure, we're scared.
Mhm.
That how we lives in our conversations, I believe. So I call my friends, and they know how to listen to me. They know how to listen to the best of me. And sometimes they know to let me cry, and sometimes they give me a good, kick in the butt and get me going and say, get off it, do your thing. So that's one. And then I would say, there's a quote that here's what I think about quotes. So I'm going to give you my little lowdown for a second. I think quotes come into our lives when we need them. So I'm always, again, on the lookout for what's coming into my space that is resonating with me in that moment, and what am I needing to hear in that moment. And so this year, I recently have been reading Brene Brown's Courage to Lead, her latest book, which is great. And she has this phrase, courage, not comfort. And that, for me, this year has already been wildly helpful to think courage, not comfort. It's very easy to say, it rolls off the tongue. And when I look back in the past, over the decades, it's always taken courage over comfort
Mm.
to get through the really tough times.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with that.
Yeah.
What does a better world look like through your eyes, Elizabeth?
Oh, a better world. Well, for one, it's tropical everywhere. Let me just say that. No, I think that curiosity, I think, if we lean into curiosity, and believe me, I'm fully aware that we teach best what we most need to learn, as Richard Bach once wrote, I think, in this book, Illusions. So, we're all full of judgment, and we're all full of opinions. But I think if we turn to curiosity, there'll be, I think, more kindness is elicited through curiosity. And I think curious about people, and curious about ideologies, and curious about what's going to happen. Even curiosity about the past, is that true, what we've read? And I just think if we stay curious. And I think the other thing that I'm really beginning to just explore, because I just heard Daniel Schachenberger, who is in the We Rise Up movie, who's phenomenally brilliant. He was talking about that our society is in this construct based on rivalrous systems. So everything from politics to saving the whales. It's all this one big rivalrous game. And how do we shift into a non-rivalrous structure? And if we can shift, not just work within the system, but actually change the system through non-rivalrous thinking, that could create a better world. And I would be very curious to see how that would play out.
Yeah, how do we operationalize that? Because it's a beautiful concept. How do we make it create systems and tools so that we can all actively participate in making that a possibility? So that's something that I'd love to explore more on. Thank you so much for all your awesome answers. This was wonderful.
Thank you for having me.
You.
It was fun.
It was amazing. So can you let us know how we can learn more about you and get in touch with you, please?
Yes, of course. You can go to my website, elizabethbartasius.com. Got my email there. I'd love it if you would reach out, connect with me, share your thoughts, tell me your stories. I love to hear them. And then I've got downloads on the website, self-love workbooks, writing prompts, reflection exercises, all sorts of fun stuff to engage with if you're interested in exploring your own voice as well.
That's great. Well, we'll make sure we add all of that into your interview notes so people know how to spell your name and find your website. Thank you so much again for your time, Elizabeth. For those that are watching, thank you so very much for tuning in again to another interview with an incredible change agent, change maker, community champion, you name it, from the Virgin Islands this time. We appreciate you for tuning in. If you're interested in nominating yourself, please don't forget to nominate yourself or someone in your life that is doing incredible, incredible things to create a positive ripple effect in our society. Please nominate them to be interviewed and be featured. You can visit nebula.soar, SOAR, communitynetwork.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks, and we'll talk to you real soon, everyone.